Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 167, a special Sunday night edition, Super Bowl Sunday reaction. The game is still ongoing down in New Orleans, but it's all but
Is it
over.
really though? Is it really ongoing? This thing has been over for about 40 football minutes.
It's a formality. The minutes on the clock. All the players know it. All the people
Yeah,
in New Orleans know it.
yeah, and the Eagles have gotten the onside kick, so it's over at this point. Final score is going to be 40-22 Eagles, and what a beatdown that was. Shout out to everyone watching us on all different platforms. Shout out to everyone watching on TikTok. I'm Nick Hill, joined by my dear friends. I've got Jason Wyrick down, or actually up rather, in Greenfield, Indiana. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, my wonderful co-host as always, Gus Tomazeli. Guys, we got a lot to talk about. I did not think we would be talking about an absolute beatdown tonight.
Yeah, I did not expect that, but even by the end of the first quarter, I was telling you guys I had a feeling that this Super Bowl was going to look like the one in 2021, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did the exact same thing the Philadelphia Eagles did tonight. Pressure Patrick Mahomes, make him uncomfortable, and build a reliable offense. The same recipe Bruce Arians did in 2021, Nick Sirianni did in now the quarterbacks are shaking hands, and now it's officially over. The clock is at zero, final 40-22. But as I said, the same recipe Tampa Bay did in 2021, the Eagles did in 2025.
And I think more effectively, I mean, what Tampa Bay did in this game was, or excuse me, what Philadelphia did in this game was, I think, so much more impressive than what Tampa did in their Super Bowl win. Because the Eagles' defense, especially the defensive line, may have put on the most dominant performance we've ever seen in the Super Bowl from a unit. I mean, this was just a complete mismatch from beginning to end. And really, the whole game started and ended with the Eagles' defensive line. I mean, the Eagles did not have to blitz at all during this game. And they got to Patrick Mahomes early, and they got to him often.
Yeah, and as I was telling you guys at halftime, without watching replays and without actually dissecting film, it looked like they were blitzing. They were getting so much pressure. I thought they were bringing somebody from the linebackers on every play, and they didn't at all. And that's a testament to the D line that they were able to build. And you got those two guys from Georgia. You've got Josh Sweat on that D line. The talent on that D line is unbelievable, and it showed. And they took a good, I wouldn't necessarily call it elite, but a really good Chiefs O line and manhandled them for 60 straight minutes.
Oh, for sure. And, beyond that, I mean, shout out to the secondary as well from the Eagles. I mean, they were spectacular tonight. I mean, Cooper DeJean. I mean, people were wondering if he could be a quality starting cornerback in this league. And he got himself a pick six as a rookie in the Super Bowl, which, I mean, that had to be an all-time moment for him, especially with it being his birthday. And just complete shutdown. And I think what we saw tonight is the Chiefs finally not having a Tyreek Hill caught up with them. It took them 3 years, but it finally caught up with them not having a superstar receiver.
Yeah, and praise to Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Great performance. I mean, Jason mentioned them, but at the same time, that's true because you need somebody special to a special receiver in those kind of situations, in those kind of games. Where not everything goes according to plan. You can't control the game, so you need something special. And Kansas City just did not have it. Philadelphia controlled the game by the first quarter, and the Chiefs never caught up with them.
Yeah, and it's not even in the way that I thought the Eagles were going to win this game, right? Because Saquon Barkley really wasn't that effective, especially in the first half. I mean, this was truly a, a really solid performance from Jalen Hurts. Now, he missed some balls, especially in the first half, that I was concerned was going to keep the Chiefs around in this game. And I thought would be the window for Philadelphia to get back into this game. But I mean, Jalen Hurts, especially in that second half, hit some deep bombs, especially that one to Devontae Smith, the 46-yard bomb there in the third quarter. And that was the final kill shot for the Philadelphia Eagles to get that win. And I mean, just every single face. I mean, Elliott tonight for Philadelphia was just lights out as a kicker tonight. Hit all of his field goals. I mean, they just were solid in every single facet of this game, and sometimes that just happens. I mean, this is the first Super Bowl we have seen since Broncos Seahawks, in my view, that was this lopsided. Now I know Bucks and Chiefs back in 2020 was pretty lopsided as well, but I still don't feel like that game was as lopsided as the one we just watched.
But
Not
in
at
terms
all.
of in terms of defense performance, I have to compare to the 2015-2016 season. You know, the way the Broncos defense made Ken Newton uncomfortable. That's what I felt about Patrick Mahomes. So that's what kind of, compared to defense performance. I wouldn't be surprised if the MVP of the Super Bowl is from a defensive unit, like it happened in 2016.
No chance. And Gus, I say no chance, but it's not for your point being incorrect. But Jalen Hurts is going to win it, and deservedly so.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts, and what a story he had too, from being benched in the national championship to being Super Bowl MVP. That's the Jalen Hurts story.
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, the way he overcome in his career so much. Not only that, Jason, but he went to Oklahoma. Everybody thought he was going to carry the Sooners to a national championship. Came close, but I guess he lost at the 2019 semifinal against LSU. Right? Am I right? So he was humiliated in a national, in a semifinal. Went to the Eagles. I feel like should be picked higher, but he went lower in the draft. But came humble. I mean, this guy keeps pounding, and every time he is doubted, he shows up.
Yeah, and Nick knows this especially. I have been the biggest doubter of Jalen Hurts from the get-go. And I want to take this moment and look directly into this camera and apologize to Jalen Hurts. I'm usually pretty good about, evaluating quarterbacks and saying who's going to be good and who's not. And I was dead wrong on Jalen Hurts. I was as wrong gets. And for that, I apologize. Jalen Hurts deserves this MVP tonight, and he deserves to be a champion. He has proven me wrong time and time again. And it's truly an unbelievable career arc for a guy who honestly just looks like a guy doing everything right, having a good time, and being good at football. And what a moment that has to be for him. And I'm sure that his coaches, especially Nick Saban's, looking at this right now and smiling, thinking he had it in him.
Absolutely. I just want to quickly shout out all the folks watching on TikTok. Shout out to Deer
Hi, TikTok friends. This is what my ugly mug looks like.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, on the TikTok, they can't see the screen because they only can really see.
Never mind then.
I'm glad. I have a radio face, so
Yeah,
I'm glad
I have to
So do
figure
I. I
out.
just don't care.
I mean, I've got to figure out how to make this work because it's only I think the fourth or fifth time I've done TikTok. But shout out to Deer Camper 77 trying to get me with one of those tricky names, those funny names, because he wants me to say happy birthday to my little brother, and then I'll let you leave it to your imagination. He is 12 today. I'll leave that one to your imagination. The folks on TikTok can see the comment. But shout out to Deer Camper 77 and everyone else coming through. You're listening to the Two Countries to America's All Sports Podcast, our special Super Bowl reaction show. This is the only podcast that talks about both American and Brazilian sports. But obviously tonight the focus is on America. And I want to kind of hit back on that point you were talking about, Jason, about Jalen Hurts. Because first and foremost, I wish you would also be wrong on Will Levis. That would be nice. But clearly that's not going to happen at this point. Although granted, I also did not think Will Levis would be any good. But second, it is crazy because when you look at the arc of Jalen Hurts, and I saw someone bring up the comparison of Hurts to like a Michael Jordan in terms of the story, right? Because Michael Jordan has been used as an example of if you fail as a young athlete, keep on trying, you may get another chance. Because Michael Jordan did make the varsity team in high school and ultimately ended up being the greatest basketball player of all time. Jalen Hurts gets benched at halftime of the national championship game for Tua and has to transfer to Oklahoma and now has made it back here with one of the biggest contracts in the NFL and now a Super Bowl ring. I don't think it's necessarily apples to apples. It's an apples to oranges. But, I mean, it's interesting when you look at Jalen Hurts and Tua. Tua can't stay healthy. He hasn't won a playoff game. And Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls and now has a ring.
Yeah, it's definitely not an apples to apples comparison. Sure, you want to have confidence as a young athlete if you stumble and aren't able to hit your marks early, but I can't even think of another athlete that even compares to this Jalen Hurts story. I think this is quite unique, at least in modern day sports. And that's fine because he is the trailblazer for young athletes that may have, may hit roadblocks in their future to not give up. And, I'm here for that. I think, there's no better ambassador for keeping your head on straight, keeping your head down and staying on the grind, believing in yourself than this Jalen Hurts career arc.
And I want to say another person who definitely deserves all the praise, who endure a lot of criticism, who had, I would say, heated confrontations during the season. Nick Sirianni. I remember Nick in our, the first part of the regular season. We are questioning if he's going to stay as a head coach for the Eagles. That did he have the temperament? Did he had the trust of the fans? And he, show all Philadelphia that he is the coach to stay because I feel like the second, title for the Eagles, but I feel like this one was more dominant than the
And it seems like we've lost Gus there, at least momentarily. Hopefully we'll have him back here in a moment.
Even Nick Foles.
Yeah, we have definitely lost him. Hopefully we can get him back soon. He's down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil. But picking up where he left off, Nick Sirianni, man, he was the target of so much criticism. And when you're the coach in Philadelphia, you are 100% going to have just the weight of criticism, the weight of the world on you. And he responded.
He and Ryan Day both. That's the story of the season in both college ball and professional ball. Sometimes you just have to stick with it. And when you have a group that you believe in, regardless what the crowd is saying, no matter what Dave Portnoy is flying over your stadium, no matter what the fans are saying to you, at your back, you have to just keep going, and eventually you can prove yourself right. And props to Ryan Day and to Nick Sirianni for making it happen.
Yeah, and the reason why I brought up the early part of the season here, you can see they had that 1-point loss to the Falcons. They had a 3-point win against the Saints, a 17-point loss to the Buccaneers, then a 4-point win against the Browns. I mean, this was a really bad part of the season here. I mean, this was games 2 through 5 for Philadelphia. And you can see why he was getting a lot of criticism early, but then you go past that, and they just went on an absolute run. And the only other
Also,
time they lost was
also,
Washington.
I want to go back. I want to go back to week 1. I guess Brazil is a lucky charm. Where did the Eagles start their season? At home, here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Just saying, just saying. Brazil gave the lucky charm to the Eagles.
Yeah, 1-for-1 NFL Brazil games producing a Super Bowl champion. And both teams made the playoffs, too. It was
That's
actually a rematch in the wild card round. But it's actually pretty crazy. From the moment of that bye week, they only lost one more time. And
Into a really good Washington Commanders team, where then in the NFC Championship they blew them out.
yeah, this Eagles team, and I think that going into this game, right, like there was the aura of the Chiefs. The Chiefs are these back-to-back champions. It seemed like that calls always would go their way. It always seemed like that luck was always on their side. But the Eagles, I guess, were so good this year that didn't matter.
Yeah, and praise to Howie Roseman to keep the plan going, not caring what the fans would think, and keep uh, all the coaching staff, especially Nick Sirianni, because at mid-season, as you point out, after some really tough losses, he could have bowed, and he kept going, and that's why the Eagles from the top down show so much resiliency. I feel like the word for this Philadelphia 2024-2025 season is resilience.
Yeah, them and Ohio State both, like Jason mentioned. And I think, when you look at this season, I think, maybe for football fans with all teams, we should step back, take a breath when our teams may struggle, especially early on. Because now in college football, right, you have the 12-team playoff. You have the room to mess up. And of course, the NFL, you're gonna always have room to lose a couple of games and still make the playoffs. So maybe one to throw a football coach out after 1 or 2 losses is silly, and it was ridiculous. And maybe it was always silly and always ridiculous to have that mindset. And I think we can learn a lot from Ohio State and from Philadelphia this year in terms of just letting the season play out. I mean, this thing is long. I mean, it's February the 9th right now. We've been watching football religiously since late August. I mean, it's a long season. I mean, the beginning of the season feels like it was years ago to me.
But let this be a statement to everybody, especially fans of teams that have really good running backs. Pay your damn running backs. You got a stud back there in your backfield? Pay him the money. This is why.
Yeah, I think also that's another big lesson from this year. Running backs are so back. They are so back. The idea that you could get rid of the running back position in football is dead. Like, the running backs are always going to be a significant part. Yes, will they last as long as a quarterback will? No. But if they are as good as Saquon Barkley is, you got to keep them. You got to pay them. And I think some running backs now are going to go in the first round when maybe 4 or 5 years ago they wouldn't have, because teams will realize we need a good running back. We need a running back who can change the game. I mean, Derrick Henry drug the Tennessee Titans to an AFC Championship game, a team that shouldn't have been anywhere close to that. And Saquon Barkley has elevated the Philadelphia into a championship-winning team.
And I also want to add here, it may not show it on the stat sheet because, to your point, Nick, he wasn't very effective today against this Kansas City defense, but they paid so much attention to him that they were able to throw over the top and down the field constantly. And they, to their credit, carved up Kansas City secondary. You're not going to be able to do that when you have, Miles Sanders back there, respectfully. You're not going to be able to do that. Saquon Barkley's on another level, and when you have to respect his game, because he is always one cut from a crib call, when you have a guy like that in your backfield, the defense changes the entire game plan, and it shows. I'm sick of seeing people talk about, oh, you can't pay your running backs. Pay your stud running backs already.
Yes. And especially like on this Eagles team, when you have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown on the outside, that's just, you have to pick your poison. And also, I want to send a congratulations to John Robinson. He should get a ring for tonight's victory for the Philadelphia Eagles because he has contributed to this championship. So, congratulations, you absolute scrub. Dallas Mavericks fans, I completely understand.
I mean, Nick, are you saying this out of pure anger because you have some sort of relations to the Tennessee Titans?
Well, I mean, it's definitely annoyance to an extent that we didn't have to be in this situation, but it's the situation that we are in. So, but as I said, Dallas, I'd say this: what Dallas is going through is infinitely worse than what the Titans. Because I mean, AJ Brown is a great wide receiver, but he alone cannot win you a championship. Luka Doncic was good enough to be the lead guy on a championship for Dallas one day. And now Dallas is never going to win it. Never going to have that. So
the Dallas Mavericks trading their star point guard couldn't be them.
Yeah, just unreal. And now we'll have to talk about this a little later. Things are really falling off the rails for the Dallas Mavericks. But back to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I just cannot get over how good the Eagles were here. But for every winner, there's a loser. In Kansas City, my God. Could today be the end of the KC dynasty?
I would say so. I feel like, as you point out perfectly at the beginning of our podcast, the Kansas City Chiefs got away with, okay, medium to good enough offensive core of receiving and running backs to win two straight Super Bowls. But today, all those deficiencies caught up with them so heavily. The lack of protection Patrick Mahomes had, the lack of weapons Patrick Mahomes had. Not only today, but for so many years. All caught up today, and also Philadelphia Eagles win. Avoiding a three-peat. That's impressive. I feel like in the NFL, it's going to take a long time for another franchise to get close to be in a situation there a chance of a three-peat.
Yeah, it was insane that the Chiefs were even in a spot in this situation. I mean, given this three-peat started after Tyreek Hill left, right? Like, it was impressive they were even in the position to pull this off. But it just their deficiencies, the close calls, because it felt like the Chiefs had been skating by now for 2 years. And because last year, it didn't feel like they were the best team. I'll go on record and say that. I don't think they were the best team last year. But they were able to pull together some big wins at Buffalo, at Baltimore, and then were able to outlast the 49ers. When arguably, I thought all three of those teams they beat played better throughout the season than KC. But it was just an all-time classic postseason run. This year, they just weren't able to pull off the same thing. And to me, when you look at the future for KC, I think to me, this feels like it's it for Travis Kelce. I think he's retiring after this year.
No way. Not with that. Not like that. If they'd have won, maybe. I don't think he's going to go out getting blown out in the Super Bowl. I do not believe it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jason Kelce, he went out a loser. He went out losing in the what was it, the wild card?
Okay, but that's completely different from getting blown out in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
True. I'm just bringing this up because I saw reports that some chief sources believe that this might be Kelce's last Super Bowl, but it's very clear that Kelce is nowhere close to his former form. And at this point, I just don't know how big of a role he could play on a championship level team. I mean, the dude, like he's just you can tell the injuries are starting to pile up. He doesn't have the explosiveness he used to have, and he's no longer that all-time great Hall of Fame tight end that reigned terror on this league for years.
Yeah, and I think the Chiefs need to go out and acquire another tight end. You know, the pipe dream for them, you know, would be Kyle Pitts. But if they could get a guy like Michael Mayer from the Raiders, I think a guy like that could thrive with Patrick Mahomes throwing him the football. I don't think that's necessarily a position that's going to be of dire need for the Chiefs, but I do tend to agree that, you know, Travis Kelce's not going to be the focal point of the offense anymore, and you have to be able to replace that production somewhere, whether that's getting multiple guys and just spread the wealth, or you make a splash and go and get somebody special. But with that said, I don't think this is going to be the end of the dynasty. I just think this shows how difficult it is to win a Super Bowl, let alone 3 in a row. I don't think this team's going anywhere.
I also want to say shout out to Gurr on TikTok. That's the username Gurr, saying "Go Bills." Man, Bills fans have to be sick to their stomachs tonight watching this, because like I don't know if the Bills won. I don't think the Bills would have won tonight either against that Eagles team.
Not only the Bills, I feel like the Ravens as well. The Cincinnati Bengals, you know, because it shows maybe how the NFC that for back a couple of years ago felt like a step back from the AFC. I feel like the tables have turned. I feel like the NFC is getting a little one step ahead. I feel like with Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, they're not going anywhere. I feel like the Rams, I feel like going to be better next year. The the Seattle Seahawks, getting strong. The San Francisco 49ers, if they can get healthy, maybe we doubted the NFC, but they're getting stronger.
Yeah, and the AFC is just very, really strong as well. Like the Bills and Ravens, as long as Allen and Jackson are playing at a high level, those are always going to be a threat. And to me, it just feels like those two teams are one piece away from taking out KC. To me. And KC, to me, it does not feel like they're going to match the 2019 high, the 2022 high, because those were their two best teams. I would say the 2018 team was better than this one, and they didn't make the Super Bowl that year because they lost to that all-time classic Patriots team in the overtime game in the AFC Championship game. I mean, that KC team would smoke this year's KC team by a long shot. So to me, I just because you got to remember the Patriots when they had Tom Brady, right? They won 3 Super Bowls from 2001 to 2000, and I want to say 4. In that 4-year stretch, they won 3. Then it was another 10 years before New England won another Super Bowl in 2014. I could see KC taking at least a small step back like that. Now, the Patriots obviously still were playing really well in those 10 years, especially given they had an undefeated season in 2007. But, they always had something holding them back, whether it was losing to Peyton in 2006, whether it was the Giants knocked them off twice. I know you would enjoy that one, Jason.
Hey, losing to Peyton was excellent. Losing to Eli in my hometown was excellent. It was great.
Yeah. And to me, I could see KC going down at least a similar road where, yeah, they're still going to be competitive. But also, the AFC West is getting better. Bo Nix proved that he is a legit quarterback with the Broncos, and I think they're only going to continue to grow. The Chargers, Jim Harbaugh is a fantastic coach. Clearly, the Chargers have a lot of work to do, but as long as he's there, that team, that franchise is going to continue to grow. Things are not going to be easy for the Chiefs moving forward, I think. And I think inevitably their grip on the AFC is going to wane. Doesn't mean they won't make any more Super Bowls, but it's going to wane.
I think I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, Gus, you and I know this as well as Nick does, and as well as everybody else does. The NFL is difficult to win in, and the fact that these guys were able to win 2 Super Bowls and have had this death grip on their division for so long is frankly astonishing, and it doesn't happen very often. And to that extent, I will agree. If that's what you define the dynasty as, then yeah, I do think it's going to come to an end. But as far as them being competitive and them being in the hunt every year, I don't think that's going to change.
No, not at all. Because I still feel if you talk about the Broncos and the Chargers, and okay, they are better than they were 2 years ago, but they're still one, maybe 2 steps behind Kansas City. I feel like Kansas City in the AFC West is still the number one team. Vegas maybe 4 steps back. Let's see what Pete Carroll's gonna do down in Vegas. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things to figure out. As you point out, Bo Nix and Justin Herbert are definitely. I mean, Herbert even more than Bo Nix are really good quarterbacks, but uh, Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh, they're still maybe 1 years to caught up to Kansas City. So I feel like in terms of making the playoffs, be competitive, as Jason pointed out, I feel like they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Now on the other side, the Eagles, to me, what are the chances they can go on a run of their own? Like, how sustainable is their current roster?
Look, as long as you've got a solid quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who, and I say solid, that's almost criminally underrating him at this point. A very good Jalen Hurts. You have 2 very top-end wide receivers. Devontae Smith is wide receiver 1 on probably 25 of the 32 NFL teams, and he is a far and away second wide receiver in Philadelphia. You have those guys. You have Saquon Barkley, who, until proven otherwise, is still going to be performing at a high level. And then you have the D line. You have those guys, Carter and Davis and Sweat. They're not going anywhere either. As long as you've got pieces like that, and as long as you have that spine of the team, that core to build around, and you can keep shifting pieces where necessary, that team's going to be competitive as well. And now, again, winning in the NFL is hard. I don't think they're going to go back to back. I don't think that, they're going to be this runaway dynasty, but they're going to be in the hunt for a very long time, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them win another Super Bowl.
Yeah. So the main thing about the Chiefs, so like, where do we think they really need to focus on? Because to me, it feels similar to after they lost to Tampa. Right? They're going to have to go back to the drawing board on their offensive line. That they're going to have to go back to the drawing board when it comes to their weapons. Because when they get Xavier Worthy, who's a really, really good young wide receiver, you got Rashee Rice, who's had his flashes, but I just have serious concerns about his ability to stay out of trouble for the long term. I just don't know where you go, right? Because Tyreek Hill's back on the market, apparently. But I don't know if you can bring him back.
He's never coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
You've
there's
burned
gonna
that
be-
bridge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what would you do? What would y'all do if you were the GM of the Chiefs to kind of address some of the deficiencies that got absolutely just exposed today?
I mean, for me, it's quite simple. I think you have to go and get one of those tight ends who will be available on the market, the trade market this offseason, whether it's, Kyle Pitts or it's Michael Mayer, guys like that. I think you need one tight end. I think you need to go and get a stud wide receiver, whether it's drafting somebody or trading for somebody or signing somebody from free agency. And then I think you have to draft a couple of linemen. And I think you need to build that depth up. The defense, I think, is fine. The defense didn't play well tonight, but overall, I think they're fine. As long as the offense is clicking, the defense can be the equivalent of the 2000s Colts. As long as you're playing with a lead and you play bend, don't break defense, you can win a lot of football games. And so for me, this is entirely an offensive problem, and you need to shore up that line, get some more depth. Trey Smith may walk, so you need to draft somebody to play in the interior of the O line, and you got to get Patrick Mahomes some weapons because yeah, he's a very special quarterback and he is tremendous with the football in his hands. But if he's getting chased around, you need somebody like a Tyreek Hill to be down there to just chuck the ball to, or you're going to end up with a lot of the problems that you saw tonight. And, I think if they go and get a solid tight end to complement Kelsey and take kind of the pressure off of him, I think that'll elongate Travis Kelsey's ability to play, assuming that he comes back. And then you just gotta get a top end wide receiver. It doesn't even have to be somebody like a Tyreek Hill level, just even a Devontae Smith level, who again, very good, but not in that upper echelon, like not in that elite tier. You don't have to go and get Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb. You need to go get somebody on that level of Devontae Smith, and I think that makes a world of difference.
I'll say this as well. I feel like this franchise is missing Eric Bieniemy at OC because there's been a noticeable drop-off since he left the organization. And,
you got no disagreement from me, period.
Yeah, maybe KC underestimated him. Let's see if you guys can hear. I found Travis Kelsey speaking after the game.
All right, just real quick, while Gus is pulling that up, just real quick for my TikTok listeners, you are listening to Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. We're doing a live Super Bowl reaction. I'm Nick Hill, joined by Gus Tomazeli and Jason Wyrick. Pulling up a clip here with Travis Kelsey.
Normally, you guys can turn it around.
I know you talked about that before in these games. You're trying to keep everyone going on the sidelines. Was it difficult today?
I mean, just couldn't find that spark, couldn't find that momentum.
To the point at which you
couldn't find the momentum. Yeah.
Shout out to. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I feel like that says it all. Like I feel like Travis Kelce says it all. I think the Chiefs never had the momentum of the game.
Absolutely. Shout out to Brennan Hunter. He says Broncos always go to the Super Bowl every 10 years, so Broncos are going to the Super Bowl 60, just saying.
Yeah, the last time was 10 years ago. Wow, time flies by.
Yeah, and I'm saying, Bo Nix, if he continues to develop, and I think he'll get you there eventually. He could get you there eventually. I don't know if it's going to be next year, though. I think that's a tall task. But, hey, at least for the first time in a while, there is hope in Denver. But in any case, we've talked about Sirianni, we've talked about Hurts. I mean, Saquon Barkley, though, man, just such an absolute validation of him. It validates him being pick number 2 overall. It validates him being so highly sought after. And it also validates that the New York Giants are an absolute clown organization. like the New York Giants wasted him for years. And then the first year he's gone, Saquon goes and wins the Super Bowl. Brennan says Bo Nix with Chubbs is definitely coming. He also adds Jalen Hurts deserved every single bit of that win. Also, someone is asking me, Drew Con's asking me, did I go to PVCC? I don't know what that is, so no, I did not go to PVCC.
Yeah, I
know some people that went to PVU though.
That's there's let you guys know that's the podium of the post-game press conference. So let's see who's gonna speak. But but while we're waiting, another point to address is I feel like we talk about a lot about the running game, but the receiving core as well. I mean, Devonta Smith. I mean, when he came out of college, we expected to be good, and he showed up today as well. What a catch of one of the Eagles' touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, look, his whole career is crazy. He's a national champion, a Heisman winner. Now he's a Super Bowl champion as well. I mean, he has basically accomplished everything that you possibly can. It seems like as a receiver, and then some. Devontae Smith certainly will have one of those careers that are very much remembered, and for all these players, just very much will. This will be just validation for all of them. Of course, I see.
Devontae Smith reminds me of Reggie Wayne in that role. Reggie Wayne was never appreciated like he needed to be because he was stuck behind Marvin Harrison for so long. But Marvin Harrison is now a Hall of Famer. It's criminal that Reggie Wayne was omitted this year, but he will be a Hall of Famer as well. That's the kind of role that I think Devontae Smith is playing now. And I think it's going to take a while, and it may take until he's retired to truly appreciate how good he is. But I think it eventually is going to. It's going to be here. People are going to understand eventually that he was special despite being overshadowed by AJ Brown.
And what's absolutely nuts too is, man, Peyton and the Colts never had a defense this good to pair with them at all.
Never. I mean, Bob Sanders was awesome, but he was made of glass. Dwight Freeney was great, but you can only do so much as one guy. Rob Mathis, same thing. They were a terrific tandem for a long time, but the Colts had no good linebackers. Gary Brackett was pretty decent, but I'm not sure he ever made a Pro Bowl. And so the best corner that the Colts had on the Super Bowl team was Marlon Jackson, who I'm not sure he made a Pro Bowl either. They had Marlon Jackson and Jason David. Antoine Bethea was pretty good. He made a couple of Pro Bowls, I think, but he was towards the end. I'm not sure he was on the Super Bowl Colts. Yeah, he was. He was very young though. But the Colts never had a defense like this, ever.
Yeah, so absolutely huge win tonight for the Eagles, getting their second Super Bowl championship in the last decade. Real quick, before we kind of move on off the Super Bowl, I just want to ask about some of the non-game stuff real quick. Because probably the biggest controversy outside of the game, probably the biggest controversy tonight is the halftime show of Kendrick Lamar. Either people are saying it's one of the greatest halftime shows I've ever seen, or perhaps more vocally, a lot of people saying it's the worst halftime show they've ever seen. Especially on the Facebook crowd who...
It was the worst halftime show ever. They omitted Mad City.
Yeah, like the song selections were not great. And this is coming from someone who is a big Kendrick Lamar fan. I wish we could have seen some stuff from Good Kid, Mad City or To Pimp a Butterfly, which are two of the greatest albums of all time. And we didn't hear one song combined from either album. Now, I will say this. It was clear to me that Kendrick was trying to get some sort of message through with that. Almost like, because obviously he was dissing Drake. It sounds like he was trying to subtly diss, I think, President Trump too, or something, with all the American symbolism and all that, which is something that Kendrick Lamar 100% would do. But I don't think Super Bowl was the right platform to try something like that with.
I mean, one person I feel like was really good, at least from my opinion, was Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, his appearance was clutchy. I mean, he kind of fit in with the Kendrick Lamar performance.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson of Chattanooga, Tennessee, or the United States. He was born here.
Wow. So yeah. Chattanooga made it to the Super Bowl again.
The most amazing part of the halftime show was the amount of time Samuel L. Jackson made it without saying the word fuck.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say it at all. And of course, and the thing about Kendrick's music, obviously, is he had to heavily self-censor it. And then he was playing a lot of stuff off of his newer record. Just not a. Can you shout out, man? Shout out to Jason Warwick, who says, "Can you shout out my little sister Amanda Hug and Kiss?" Oh boy! If you're on TikTok, you can scroll back up and see what we're referencing there. Yeah, but the song selection wasn't great. Clearly, there was a concept there, that I don't think the Super Bowl was the right platform to attempt that on. And I think the audio mixing wasn't great either. Like there were times where I could barely hear him rapping over the instrumental, and then the camera angles didn't really help there at all. Definitely wasn't close to like Prince's Purple Rain or Lady Gaga, dangling out of the stadium in Houston. Bruno
I'm
Mars.
very biased, but the Prince performance was the best of all time.
Yes.
For more reasons than just it was the good memories that I had as a kid.
Absolutely. I mean, regardless of the game, I mean that was really just the best one. And to be honest, as a Kendrick fan, I am definitely a little disappointed in the performance because I felt like there could have been a lot more. It could have been a lot more fun, but I just there was as I said, I think there was a concept there because I think there was kind of like this message of like, oh, look at me, Kendrick Lamar. You want me just to come out, rap not like us, and go away. And then he was trying to put forward some sort of social message there. Which, I mean, it's Kendrick Lamar. Like, of course, he's gonna throw out a message anytime he raps. But this is the Super Bowl. Like, people aren't here for a social message during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but people aren't there for the halftime show at all, to be fair. So, I mean, I respect it. You're only going to have that platform once. Why not use it?
Yeah, especially when you've got the president in attendance as well. So,
yeah, for me, it's one of those things where I respect it. Kendrick Lamar's not my favorite artist, but I do like several of his songs. And
right.
The biggest gripe that I had wasn't that he, gave a social message or that the mixing was bad. It's that he omitted my favorite of his songs. So
right, and of course, Kendrick Lamar, arguably, like, is probably my favorite artist. So I'll just be honest. Like he is.
Sure,
yeah. I mean, he's the guy who got me into hip hop. So I mean, I'm super happy that he got that platform and he got that chance. And I will say, him doing the "Say Drake" while smiling into the camera had me rolling. That was awesome.
Look, it's not Young Dolph level of petty, but he's still
alive,
and that's why. So
yeah.
Young Dolph is always going to be my favorite rapper. God rest his soul. But the pettiness, I was here for it.
Yeah, I have I think "In Charlotte" on my playlist from Young Dolph. So, and that's a good song. But also in terms of pregame too, I thought the New Orleans flair of the pregame was awesome. The trombone shorty on and Lauren Daigle on the
Lauren Daigle crushed it. Shout out to my mom. My mom's favorite singer is Lauren Daigle, and she kept telling me, watch the pregame, watch the pregame, watch the pregame. Lauren Daigle crushed it.
Yes. And then the national anthem too, John Baptiste, who's a very talented artist in his own right. I really enjoyed his rendition of the national anthem. It was a subtle version. Now, it wasn't as good as Chris Stapleton's 2 years ago, because Chris Stapleton, in my opinion, had the greatest national anthem of all time.
See, I didn't like either one of those. I didn't like it tonight, and I didn't like Chris Stapleton's either. And I know that's a hot take, and that's fine. I think that both of those singers are tremendously talented, but I'm of the opinion that, the Star Spangled Banner should be, I think it should be sang one way. I don't think that's, out of any song, I think that's the one I probably don't want to see anybody's personal spin on, and that's just
I disagree. Music is music, and I think anyone's entitled to further own spin on any song, including the national anthem.
Sure, I'm not going to say don't do it. I'm just not going to like it personally, and that's okay.
And I'm saying this as a band kid who's used to playing it one certain way, which I feel like I should be the one that shouldn't have this take, but I do have this take.
I mean, I was a band kid once too, but I wasn't very good. So there's a reason.
I've gone to performance for 100,000 people, so that's.
Oh yeah, Sir Long John over there, Long Dong Silver over there. Trying to swing a big one. Oh, I played what, sousaphone in front of 100,000 people. Woohoo! Look at me. I'm Nick Hill. I played in front of 100,000 people. You know how many people I played in front of? Like 200. And you know what? I was crap. So
right. Right. Of course, unfortunately, this was back though when the Vols were awful in football. So I don't think I played in front of one single sellout. So, shout out Jeremy Pruitt and Butch Jones.
Terrorists.
Also, did either one of you really pay attention to ads at all? Because I thought for the vast majority the ads weren't very good, but the one I did think was hilarious was a Hellman commercial for a Hellman Mayo commercial. It was a reenactment of When Harry Met Sally. So you had both Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, who are much older now, and they were reenacting the scene in the restaurant. Have either one of you seen that movie? Okay, so basically the movie is about a man and a woman, and basically the whole movie asks the question, can a man and a woman be best friends without becoming a romantic thing? And so basically they reenact a famous scene from that movie, and then Sydney Sweeney delivers one of the famous lines on the side, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But it's probably only hilarious if you have seen the movie, which I have. So, I thought it was great because I think that's a fantastic movie. And I highly recommend anyone who has never seen When Harry Met Sally to go see it. It's one of the best movies of the 1980s. Yeah, but I guess kind of wrapping up discussion of Super Bowl and really the NFL season as a whole. This NFL season to me.
But one thing, we're forgetting to talk about. Since we're moving on from the Super Bowl, but still talking about the National Football League. How about the bombshell that happened in New York City today?
Yes. And I was going to get to that about Aaron Rodgers. But before I get to that, I just want to do just a brief NFL season retrospective. I think Jason summed it up best that running backs are so back this year. I think this is the number one lesson.
You were the one that said it. You said
maybe
running backs are so back. I was just saying pay your stud running backs.
Yeah, to me, that's the number one thing from this year is that running backs are back, that we didn't see history with the three-peat, and it feels like you have a mix of veterans now that used to be the young guns, but you have a guy like a Jane Daniels and you have CJ Stroud who are going to continue to make things super entertaining moving forward. Gus? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I feel like the NFL is getting younger. We are in a high point, kind of like what happened in the mid 2000s. Where you had the peak Tom Brady, the peak of Peyton Manning, the peak of Phillip Rivers. Now it's a new generation, definitely, because Jalen Hurts is in the category right now because we all praise Lamar Jackson, we all praise Josh Allen. But Jalen Hurts made it to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen still haven't got to a Super Bowl and haven't even won an AFC championship.
And don't forget Joe Burrow either. Joe Burrow's in that conversation as well and has also been to the Super Bowl.
Oh, no. I didn't want to put Joe Burrow because he's already there. He's already there.
Sure,
I was just mentioning two quarterbacks that he's highly praised, but haven't accomplished what Jalen Hurts has accomplished. And I feel like a lot of people diminish Jalen Hurts and kind of overvalues Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. They're really good quarterbacks, but they're, still maybe they're going to be in the Dan Marino kind of category.
Yeah, it's hard to say right now because I do think KC has peaked in terms of where they've been to where I think they will ultimately end up. Both Allen and Jackson, to me, if they don't get it done in the next 3 to 4 years, they're not getting it done ever. Their window, they still have a window, but their window is shrinking. The hourglass the sand is starting to get low in the hourglass. For both of
I'm
those
not
teams.
sure that's true. Look how many years it took Peyton Manning to win a Super Bowl. He was in his 7th season, if I remember correctly. And I don't think the sand is ticking necessarily. I think, though, more than anything, I think you're running out of opportunities to how do I want to say this? You're running out of the opportunities to get everybody off your back before the pressure just builds and builds and builds and builds. And it's the same thing that happened with Peyton Manning. And I think that there are a multitude of ways that you can win a Super Bowl. And if you are going to be paid like a top quarterback, you have to play like one, or you probably won't win a Super Bowl. And that's why you have guys like Joe Flacco who are able to win Super Bowls on the back of a tremendous defense. You almost saw that last year with Brock Purdy. And then you have guys like Patrick Mahomes who backpacks his team, basically by himself. And, like what happened last year. And so unless the Bills and the Ravens want to assemble, these elite defenses and not give them any weapons, they're going to have to perform at a high level with the guys that they have. And I think the Bills have only regressed as far as weapons go, letting Stephon Diggs go. Sure, they have James Cook and he is solid, but, you still have to have a top end receiver to throw to. And will their young gun wide receivers get there? Maybe. But Stephon Diggs is there now. And for Joe Burrow, and I know Gus, you said he's already been there, but I think the pressure is mounting on him in a very similar way. He has not one, but two top end wide receivers. I would say that the Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles have the two best wide receiver tandems in the league. And frankly, I don't think it's close. Now, if T. Higgins walks, that's a different story. But Jamar Chase is a top 3 wide receiver in the league. And A.J. Brown, probably top 5. And so, if you can get the job done, you need to do it. But the pressure is going to keep mounting, and it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon if you don't win the Super Bowl soon. I think that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and I think too, also, if your franchise doesn't have one of those top end quarterbacks, then what hope is there for you?
You got to go all in on defense. You got to win it like the Ravens did.
I mean, a great example of that, Jason, and you know very well, Andrew Luck. Can we, he was a very, really good quarterback that carried a coach team on his shoulder that had no good defense. Am I wrong?
Well, you're wrong in one way, Gus. You said that he carried a team with no defense. He carried a team with nobody but himself. It's even worse than you were saying.
I was being nice enough. Yeah,
right.
I guess there's even bigger example of that.
Absolutely. And Andrew Luck did more with. Now, he didn't win a Super Bowl. Andrew Luck would have won a Super Bowl by now if he hadn't retired, and you cannot change my mind. However, in the 7 seasons that he played, I think he did more with less than just about any quarterback in the history of football, because he had nobody. Over and over and over again. Ryan Grigson, you are a football terrorist. Go to hell, directly to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Like Ryan Grigson and John Robinson should host a comedy show on how to not be an NFL GM.
I don't even want to put John Robinson in that category. John Robinson never even had a good quarterback.
That is also fair. He didn't have an Andrew Luck, that's for sure. Yeah, but that's kind of where we are. So, guys, we don't have any more football now for 6 months. Unless you want to count the UFL, which I don't care. I don't think no one outside of the really, really hardcore fans care about the UFL.
But before
the football on every Saturday is coming back. Look at Rio Branco. We got to go root for them and root for Indy 11.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. Soccer season more than ever. But I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm still shocked. I mean, what Aaron Rodgers, news on the Super Bowl Sunday, which is really weird, and the way things are, parting ways in New York. It fell in. I mean, he arrived in a weird way and is leaving in a weird way in New York. I don't know. I mean, in my mind, it would be such ironic if he goes to the Vikings, because then the story of him and Brett Favre will be exact the same, because Brett Favre went to the Jets after a legendary run to the Packers, didn't work through, and then went to Minnesota and have a couple of good seasons. I don't see that happening, but it would have been hilarious.
I mean, why would look? Sam Darnold obviously was bad in the playoff game against the Rams, but he's still at this point a better option than Aaron Rodgers, which is insane to say that sentence. Sam Darnold's a better option than Aaron Rodgers, but that's 100% the case now.
And Colin Cowherd said on his, podcast YouTube channel that the Indianapolis Colts and the Las Vegas Raiders could be two franchises he would have fit in.
Okay, the Colts should not do that.
Not me.
The Colts have
Jason,
the Colts have done
Cody,
have gone through
I'm
enough geriatric quarterbacks in their past.
Hold on. I need you guys to see something really quick. I will be right back.
Yeah, I know exactly what he's going to get, but that would be a horrible decision for the Colts. The Raiders are probably the only team that really makes sense. Honestly, too, and as much as I hate to say this, I could see the Titans even thinking about doing that if they don't draft a quarterback at number 1 overall, which I'm of the opinion they shouldn't draft a quarterback at number 1 overall because I don't think either of the main options are good enough to be the number 1 overall pick. I'm team trade back or team Travis Hunter. But I do fear that we will draft Shedeur Sanders. If I had to bet money on who will go after 1, it'll probably be Shedeur. Personally, if I'm in charge, I'm drafting Travis.
So, Jason, what do you want to show us?
I have a gorgeous Andrew Luck jersey, right?
Uh-huh.
That's all. I don't need to add more names to that goddamn thing.
Yeah, definitely not Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the Colts could do better because to me, I think the Colts will still be starting Anthony Richardson to start the year next year, but it's definitely a prove-it year for AR. Like, if there's any proving even left to be done at this point.
Look, I'm trying so hard to believe in him because he's so young and he is talented, physically, can do everything you need him to do. But he has shown to like to quit and in the middle of drives. He has, he likes to quit in the middle of drives, but not on the ends of runs where he needs to just get on the ground. So if he would just jump on the ground more and keep himself healthy and not sub himself out because he's tired, well, maybe he could be good.
Yeah, like I don't know what's worse, that situation, because AR clearly has the talent to be a really good NFL quarterback, but he doesn't feel like he wants it up here, and that's the big problem. And then versus my situation doing with Will Levis, where it's just clear he doesn't have he has the arm talent, but he doesn't have the true mental capability to be an elite NFL quarterback.
But I want you guys' opinion on what do you grade Aaron Rodgers' tenure as the New York Jets quarterback? Of course, season 1 it's hard to give a grade because he played three
plays. He played three
plays and he got injured. But the second season that we all expected to at least be productive, he showed some glances of of what fans wanted it, but he wasn't there, and definitely ran Robert Saleh out of the building. And I feel like the new coach coming from the Lions definitely did not want to deal with him. That's what the overall, I feel like, feeling was, that new coach, new quarterback. He was like, I don't want to deal with Aaron Rodgers even in the offseason. Let me get him out even before this season ends.
Oh yeah, man, it's enough. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, and I as far as what the new coach Ben Johnson is doing, I think that going back really quick to what you said about it being very weird that it came out on Super Bowl Sunday, I disagree. I think that was the least weird thing they did. I think it was very shrewd and calculated. They buried that news in the biggest sports day of the year, and it got overlooked by everyone. And that was for a reason.
Yeah. Now the question is, who did the Jets go after at QB? Do they draft someone? Because they're going to have a really high draft pick.
I mean, I will trade you one gently used Anthony Richardson.
The Titans should call and say, hey, do you really like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Do you want to trade a Sauce Gardner for that number 1 pick? I don't think they'll give us Sauce Gardner for that, but hey, a
What
man
a
can
shot.
dream. A man can try. I would
I mean,
sell the
there's
number one
two
pick for Sauce Gardner. I even think about it.
there's
I think
two
that's a no-brainer.
I'll say two quarterbacks that are good that kind of not being uh, very praised by their organizations. You know, Derek Carr at the Saints and and Kirk Cousins at the Falcons. You know, but maybe the Jets don't want to go after another veteran quarterback.
And plus, Kirk Cousins has a very expensive contract as well that I doubt the Jets are going to want to take on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's up there in between a rock and a hard place. As I said, if you don't have one of those elite quarterbacks, it's hard times for sure. Also, speaking of a weapon that's on the market, Deebo Samuel says he is looking to seek a trade away from the 49ers. Also, Cooper Kupp.
That was shocking. I did
Yeah.
not expect Cooper Kupp.
Either one of those guys to the Chiefs makes a lot of sense.
Yes, absolutely. Because instantly they become wide receiver one in Kansas City. I expect one of those for sure to go there. Real quick, let's hit just through some other non-NFL sports real quick. Some NBA talk here. Anthony Davis is already going to be out for multiple weeks with an injury after last week's shock trade with the Los Angeles Lakers, with them getting Luka Doncic. I mean, Dallas Mavericks, man. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Like how this has gone down for you.
Yeah, I feel like definitely this decision keeps getting worse on the Dallas end. I mean, Dallas sports fans this year cannot catch a break from the Cowboys, poor run decisions from, a new coach that was announced on a Friday night and the fans did not love him. And, from now the Mavs and
Yeah. Hey, Gus. So I think we have a live view of celebrations in Philadelphia. If you want to take Jason's screen full, if you can.
Just let me know, Gus. We this
Go
is
ahead.
a live video that I got from my buddy Raj. Shout out to Raj. He lives in Philadelphia. This is a guy climbing a light pole.
Whoa.
Here, I'm gonna try to flip.
No, I can see.
Yeah. Hey, flip it again. Show it again, Jason, for the folks here on TikTok. I don't know how well you all can see that, but we have a guy in Philadelphia climbing a light pole.
And then here is a couple of shots from the celebration as well. Shout out to Aaron for these.
Whoa.
Yeah, does he have to stay and clean up all of that?
Yeah. Here is here's a video of the
I would have gladly do that. I would have
the
gladly
celebration.
do that.
Yeah, Aaron, it looks like he's on or near the field, so I'm expecting him to come back with a handful of confetti in his pocket. I asked him last year to snag me some if he could, and he did. So he's a real.
I don't know if he's busy or not, if he allowed to, but it would be amazing if he joined our pod to show what is the Super Bowl field after the game.
I'm sure we can get a couple of pictures from him. He won't be able to go live. They're gonna be cleaning up for 12, 13 hours a day for like 4 days and then getting the hell out of there. They've been down there for like 40 days, and this is his first day off besides the weather induced day off. And he got to enjoy the Super Bowl. That was that's always cool. But
I wonder where in the stadium he got to sit in. Or stand.
I can tell you, it's right here. This was his.
That was nice as hell.
Yeah, I mean, and getting to see an absolute beatdown from that. Yeah, and getting to see Kendrick Lamar and everything else that goes into the Super Bowl. Yes. Also, speaking of the Lakers, Dalton Connect. So there was a trade midway through the week that was announced. So Dalton Connect, our boy Dalton, was going to get sent over to Charlotte in exchange for Mark Williams to fill in that need for a center that Los Angeles just doesn't have. However, What happened is Mark Williams failed his physical, so the trade was rescinded after the trade deadline. So now Dalton Connect is still a Los Angeles Laker, which is absolutely insane. And I am so excited for this because that means we're going to see Dalton Connect in the playoffs. And I was so heartbroken the other day when I saw that trade because, yes, it makes sense. But I was going to be disappointed that Dalton Connect was getting relegated to a horrible team and we would never see him in the NBA playoffs. But now we are. And it's going to be awesome watching him next to LeBron and Luka whenever they finally get back on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, this guy has such a star around him that even when things out of his control kind of gonna push back, things worked out for him. Dalton Connect, I mean, he is definitely one of those players that made an impact in Knoxville, and we all hoping he's shine in the pros.
Yes. Real quick, some college basketball, and I actually want to start off with the Lady Vols this time because they got a program-defining win this week against Connecticut, 80-76. Today, they took LSU down to the wire. They did lose 82-76, but that was a really tight game to the end in Baton Rouge against number 6 LSU. So splitting the week between games with the number 5 and number 6 teams, you can't be mad at that, especially when you beat Connecticut for the first time in 18 years. Are the Lady Vols officially back?
I mean, Kim Caldwell shows she's for real. I mean, she showed resilience, and I feel like, of course, the Lady Vols are going to make the tournament again, but it felt like this, what we talked about, she's not a coach from the Pat Summit tree, have a different vision, different culture for this program is starting to show up.
Yes, and they just play so much more aggressively and strategically. Like, this just looks like a confident team. And it's not, as Jason has said on multiple times before, when we've talked about the Lady Vols, this is not the finished product for Kim Caldwell at all. Like, she doesn't have her players. I mean, obviously you would say these are her players.
Her recruits.
Yeah, her recruits. She doesn't have her recruits here yet. These are still Kelly Harper's recruits. And she's doing very well. I mean, this team right now is on pace to host in the first round or the first weekend to be a top 16 seed. And that's just super impressive. And it's just awesome to see what Kim Caldwell has done. And, man, I just felt so much pride because, here in Tennessee, you're taught about Pat Summitt and what she did and how much she means. I mean, outside of Dolly Parton, Pat Summitt is the patron queen of Tennessee. Like, she is one of the most single important Tennesseans ever. And seeing this Lady Vols team and how hard they play and how hard they fight is just such an honor to her. And for the first time since we lost Pat Summitt back in 2016, this feels like a team that Pat Summitt would be proud of if she were still here with us. So I'm just overjoyed, and I know she's enjoying this from heaven.
Yeah, I feel like the post-game interview gave chills for people that remember that era.
Absolutely. I know Candace Parker and Tamika Catchings and Shamanic Hothclaw were all enjoying that. The men's team, too, not to forget about them. They are cruising. They dominated Oklahoma yesterday, 70-52, and the game wasn't even that close. They were up by 30 at one point. And now they've got revenge games this week. They got to go to Rupp on Tuesday against a Kentucky team that's kind of spiraling right now. They did beat South Carolina yesterday, but before then, they were on a bit of a rough patch.
Nick, you think you can get a media pass for that? I'll meet you down there in Lexington.
Well, I got to work Tuesday, unfortunately, so that's not going to.
Yeah, I'm asking if you could work that.
Well, I'm for reasons that I'm not going to get to on a live stream. I'm just going to say no on that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but in any case, I would love to. I would love to get to a game in Rupp at some point.
Yeah, I'm still mad at Kentucky. I remember back in 2020, it was like 2 weeks before all the COVID stuff. I applied for credentials and everything with WTK, and I was like, I'm gonna get it, and then they denied me credentials, and I had everything planned to go to Lexington, everything sorted out perfect, and they denied my credentials. I'm still mad at them. Even 5 years later, they denied me to cover that game.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something Kentucky would do, but I think this Vols team can get the revenge W in Lexington. I mean, Rick Barnes has won 3 out of the last 4 games in Lexington, which is absolutely crazy to think about because Tennessee before then had not won in Lexington. Well, they won in 2017, but before then they hadn't won in like 20 years up there. So Rick Barnes certainly has found a way to beat Kentucky. The big key there is, unlike the first time, found a way to close out on their 3-point shooters. Please, I mean, and also don't take 45 threes. But the way this team was attacking the basket yesterday against Oklahoma, super impressive. I hope that continues. Also, Vanderbilt Saturday, big game because they beat us in Nashville. And Vandy, they beat Texas yesterday. That's a team that's currently in the postseason. And, just this week, this season in the SEC, it's never easy. You have no such thing as an easy game, except for yesterday if you're Tennessee, because Oklahoma did not show up. And honestly, at this point, before it's all said and done, I don't know if Oklahoma's going to make the tournament. Like, that looks like a team that's spiraling, that might find themselves on the wrong side of the bubble before this season ends. Speaking of other losses, though, Auburn, they lost at home to number 6 Florida. That was their first loss in 2 months. And then Duke lost on the road at Clemson. Shout to Duke. Dick Vitale, his first game back from cancer. He called it, and it was just awesome to hear his voice again on a telecast. And you can tell, he's been through a lot. His voice sounds pretty rough, but you can tell it meant the world to him to be calling that game.
Absolutely, and he's a legend of college basketball, and he's a terrific human being. Was able to meet him and interact with him when I was the president of the student section at Louisville. Great guy. Happy for him, and wishing him all the best.
Absolutely. So the question is, with Alabama barely got out of Fayetteville yesterday with a win, and because they had like a 20-point lead, and Arkansas came all the way back to make things stressful at the end. Who should be number 1? Because arguably Auburn probably still has an argument to still be number 1 despite their loss yesterday.
Whoever it is, not Tennessee. That's all I care about. Don't put that target on our back.
Yeah. Because if you move Auburn and Duke both down, then logically that probably puts Bama at 1. But, I mean, I don't think it really matters because if the seeding came out today, Auburn would be the number 1 overall seed. So, I mean, it's not like the AP at this point really matters. You start looking at the net rankings and all that. And right now, when you look at that, Tennessee right now is the number 4 seed, our 4th overall seed in the bracket, and that last number 1 seed. And that, to me, is the big story of the rest of the season. Can Tennessee do enough to get that 1 seed? Because they've had a couple of chances over the past couple of years to get that. And it feels like they have fallen short. Last year, was a year where if they had just been Kentucky in that last game, or take care of Mississippi State in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament, that 1 seed was probably theirs, but they let it go. So it would just be cool to get that 1 seed. Because right now, if the tournament started today, they would be the 1 seed in the West. I'm trying to see where Louisville would be right now. Louisville would be a 7 seed.
Nah, Louisville's a higher seed than that.
Yeah.
I personally believe the amount of quality wins Louisville has with the amount of players that Louisville has been missing is quite high.
Yeah, it's just it still continues to impress me just how after the basketball terrorist, getting rid of him, bringing in Pat Kelsey, how you guys
128 combined missed games among scholarship players on this Louisville team, and this Louisville team's still winning a lot.
And
It's
you guys
insane.
are not a bubble team; you guys are solidly in the field, which is just so impressive to me. It's just awesome. I mean, it's like Kim Caldwell at Tennessee. He doesn't have his recruits yet, which it's going to be fun to watch. So to see what he can do with him. But I'm not going to bring up the brackets yet because, well, it's not really worth bringing up bracketology right now because like the teams and stuff are going to change. Real quick, Gus, how are things going in Brazil? How's Rio Branco doing? I saw yesterday you guys were
Before Rio
playing.
Branco, Neymar had his first start for Santos, play average, Santos 0-0. It's going to be tough for Santos to qualify for the playoffs. And I was telling you on the broadcast, I broadcast another game, the Campinas Derby, one of the biggest clashes in terms of rivalry. It's bigger than Tennessee, Florida. I compare to kind of like I don't know, maybe Louisville, Kentucky in terms of rivalry, because in America it's hard because they don't have much city rivalries. But in Brazil, there's a lot of city rivalries, and Ponte Preta and Guarani is one of them. They hate each other. We had a derby, Ponte Preta won. But in the broadcast, I said, if Santos did not make to the playoffs with Neymar, that's really tough. I mean, that's one of the most not heartbreaking, but most kind of sour things I mean, Santos literally came back from the second division. I mean, so I expected Santos to be better, to at least make the playoffs with Neymar, because that's why he came back to get his confidence back, and Santos be a little bit better than they were at least last year. And Jason pointed out a really good point. I mean, I haven't heard anything of David Washington. I mean, he was a very good, promising young player. I haven't heard him coming back from Santos, but I'm gonna do my research. But if he comes back, I feel like it's fair because he went with such a young age to Chelsea. But I wouldn't be surprised to come back. But one player I bet Chelsea fans are excited to see is Estevão. I mean, he's keeping getting better and better to Palmeiras. I mean, he's practically carried Palmeiras on his shoulder. He's been crucial for Palmeiras' offensive performance. Had a good game today. Palmeiras tied 1-1 against Água Santa. And Palmeiras coming to Limeira here near Americano, be covering on Thursday the game against Inter Limeira. Maybe I'll see Estevão. Maybe I'll try to take a picture, even send a video to you, Jason. So you have a Chelsea player video of a shutout before he even made to Chelsea. But I'll see if I don't know if his English is good. That's my question.
Hey, I just want to give a quick shout out to my cousin Marcel down in Tampa. Thank you for hopping on the show here.
You had a cousin in Tampa. We could have visited him.
Yeah, but obviously we had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, that's fair. We had a busy time back then. But so, Jason, I as a Chelsea fan, did you know or watch a little bit of Estevão? Do you think he's gonna? I mean, he's been one of the best strikers in Brazil right now.
I think between Esteval Willian and Kendry Paez, who is playing, I believe, in Colombia still, I think between those guys, at least one of them is going to hit big in the Premier League. I think Chelsea is a sinking ship, and I think these guys are going to be players that come in, light it up.
Who do you think is worse, Chelsea or Man United?
Chelsea, easily.
Really?
Chelsea,
I think Man United. I mean,
it's Chelsea. It's Chelsea, and here's why, Gus. The people that are running the club at Chelsea are running it into the ground. Man United, the levels have dropped, but they're still a functioning football club. Chelsea is operating as a Chelsea is operating the same way that like a 2K player runs his My Team. And because literally they buy players at cheap prices and try to sell them later without any regard for the squad and the product on the pitch. And you don't say the same at Man United. They at least try to win football matches, and Chelsea does not. So it's
I'll say, I mean, that Chelsea did not produce any kind of player that resembled the fans. I mean, at least Man United, you had Casemiro, you had Anthony. At least you had some players. I mean, the Chelsea feels like, and that's true. I mean, of course, the fall has been really dropped because I mean, what, 3 years ago, Chelsea was winning Champions League, and Man United hasn't won anything big for the last 12 years. But that's true. Like, I feel like the falling of Chelsea has been faster than Man United.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're coming up on 4 years ago in May for the Champions League, and that feels longer ago than Man United winning whatever trophy they won last outside of the FA Cup last year. And
Last big trophy was the Premier League back in 2013.
yeah, and that feels closer to right now than the Champions League does, and that's criminal and sad. And speaking of criminal, the ownership of Chelsea has been involved in some potential criminal activity regarding ticket touting, and so that's a whole thing. It's a shit
Just let the
show.
Russian guy. Just let the Russian guy have it back.
Please God, Roman Abramovich. Roman Abramovich.
Always says, hello, thanks for the shout, and it's all love, cuz. Love seeing what you do. Thank you so much, man, and I love seeing your stuff as well.
Yeah,
I have one last thing to say about Chelsea real quick, Gus. Clear Lake, Bowley, get out. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Get out of my club. Thank you.
And
continue, Gus.
And that's like I get the point, because Roman Abramovich, he changed the perspective as a soccer owner. He cared about it, the team. Like, he didn't want to just put the money and that's it. Like, I felt like he was there all the time. He really was involved, maybe sometimes over involved, but he carried about the Chelsea. I mean, without
Not
him,
only that, Gus, he changed the way the Premier League operated entirely.
yeah, definitely. His arrival to Chelsea back in 2004 changed completely the dynamic of Premier League.
The reason that PSR rules, profit and sustainability rules, are a thing is because of Roman Abramovich. He came in and said, "To hell with Real Madrid being the only team that that can win anything ever in Europe." He said, "This league is more profitable than we're giving it credit for. Let's go ahead and exploit that, and let's do it." And then he did, and then the Premier League became the best league in the world and the most financially dominant league in the world. And it's on the back of Roman Abramovich.
But now Real Madrid, though, at this point, now they have the best team, though, is the thing, even with that.
And it was funny that it took him a while to win Europe. I felt like 2008 was more deserving than 2012, but soccer works in funny ways.
Yeah, I'm still don't like Barcelona.
I mean, all Chelsea fans did not forget about the slip up of John Terry back in Russia, but he made it up in 2012. Part of that. I feel like the glory of that Champions League win in Munich, defeating Bayern Munich. I mean, that was. Even myself, I was rooting for Chelsea, but definitely. I mean, that header was probably one of the toughest headers ever. Like, was stronger than ever. But last but not least, Rio Branco tying on the road 0-0 against Catanduva. Finally, you guys in America were able to watch after my after I get involved
after the region blocking.
Yeah, I had to get involved and call some people down in the Police Federation to make that change. So I was talking to one of the people that work in the department of the Police Federation, and I say, you guys owe me one. You guys owe me one. If people in United States of America and other countries can watch your product, it's because of me. You guys should take me.
Absolutely, and we were and funny enough, yesterday I went on a hike because it was beautiful and 70 degrees down here. And
yeah, rub it in. Why don't you?
Yeah, well, we're about to get 10 inches of rain over the next week, so we're gonna be half of the area is gonna be underwater, unfortunately. By this time next week, but at the very least, we've had some nice-ish warm weather. So, but surprisingly, out in the woods, I was able to get the game on my phone, which surprised me. So I was able to watch it.
Yeah, thanks to Gus's efforts.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks to my calls that I made with some people at the Police Federation, you know. And I even joke with Rio Branco. I mean, there's like a kind of like a prize that clubs get it by the end of a season, that some things off the field that we have to accomplish to get like some sort of a money reward. And I say that should count. You know, Rio Branco saving Police Federation from, you know, not being able to broadcast their lower division games on YouTube. That should count for their prize. So I made that joke, but you know, I'm glad you guys could watch it. But unfortunately, the game was a little bit, you know, boring because both teams did not want to lose. Definitely wasn't the kind of games that was a very kind of tactical. Like neither team wanted to, you know, go all deep, and 0-0 good. Now Rio Branco has a whole week to rest. The next game is Saturday, 3 p.m. Brazil time, 1 p.m. Eastern time against Lemense. And Rio Branco should win that game. Lemense is not on the top 10, is on the bottom, but hopefully Rio Branco, you know, keeps on the top 4. Rio Branco is the only undefeated team in the A3, the only team that has not lost yet. It's 3 wins, 4 ties. So Rio Branco, the only undefeated team in the A3 in the 3rd division of the state of São Paulo. So that was it for Rio Branco.
Absolutely. And one little quick last one before we wrap up. I forgot to add this in. Daytona 500 this upcoming Sunday. My pick to win the first race of the season and biggest race of the season for NASCAR, Kyle Busch. He finally gets his first Daytona 500 win. Going on record, that's my pick. I don't know if either one of you would have a pick.
Yeah, I feel like Kyle Busch would be a good pick too.
Well, I was gonna pick Kyle Busch, and then you did it. So whatever. Well, we're gonna sweep Kyle Busch, and then he's gonna get wrecked, and then he's gonna come back to this, hop in our comments, and ask why we jinxed him.
Absolutely. And then it's going to be like something random, like Zane Smith wins or something, which is what happens in Daytona because of the randomness. I just
Trevor
want,
Bayne.
yeah, the one thing I just wanted to finish under green, please. It feels like it's been 2 years because last year it finished under yellow. These races always should finish under green. It's a Daytona 500 for crying out loud. Please finish under green.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my only request. But for Gus Tomazeli, for Jason Wyrick, I'm Nick Hill. Thank you so much for watching our special post-Super Bowl 59 halftime show. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions for the season. I'm Nick Hill. Thank you so much for watching 2 Countries, 2 Americas, All Sports, the only American and Brazilian sports podcast. Have a great Sunday night.
And fly, Eagles, fly. Congratulations, Rafa. Congratulations, all Eagles fans.